All right, let me know when we're on. I'm not going to look cool with coffee. We are. Good morning. Thank you. Please never call me that again. All right. Anybody else? These guys are wandering the aisles. I know not a lot. Right up here. Teresa has something. Alex, go ahead and just come up here with me. You can get a stool, get you a bar stool, and come up here. Can we get another microphone? Just another cordless? That way when she interrupts me, she doesn't have to totally take my power. Oh, she's trying to... This is my pulpit. Yeah, I already had somebody, Noah, I think your dad, Noah, said that we could just give the whole thing to her. I'm like, what? All right, praise God. I needed a vacation. Good morning. All right, are y'all there? Oh, 2 words that got me rolling in my spirit. One we're going to talk about is density. Just the word density, which is also dense. How would you guys like to be called dense? Okay? It's the root of density. You have been called that? And form. Those are the 2 words that just got me going this morning. Density and form. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to dialogue. We started a little bit early so that we can dialogue a little bit more. All right? And I'd love to hear from some of you guys as we get going. So, if you will, is Alexandria, will you mind going up there and doing the pictures for me first before you take a picture of me? Can you show Jesus? So we're going to talk about form, and all of us have an idea of who Jesus is in form. The historical Jesus, maybe you have a mindset, and who he is to you is who he is to you. I'm not trying to take that away from you. I'm not trying to give you my Jesus or the picture that I have. And we could say, close your eyes and picture Jesus. And I'm kind of scared of some of your Jesuses. So let's look at them. So this is one you can see all over town. Let's just keep going. These will go pretty fast, Xavier. Oh, not that fast. Oh, my God, Jesus. I forget which one this is. I mean, I don't know. If you guys want, we can vote on which Jesus is your Jesus. You like that one? There's more. We got hot Jesus, hot Jesus. This is greasy hair Jesus. I was raised with him. Oh, this was my Catholic Jesus. I was raised with him with my bookmark. I love this Jesus. This is, I don't know. This is Jesus with a perm, whatever. This is Jesus in my rear view mirror, Jesus. Oh, come to me. This was the great movie. That movie was a great movie. He was greasy-headed. Oh, this is the Mormon Jesus. Yeah, I'm not kidding. These are really the ones I Googled. This is Jim Caviezel Jesus. He's in a class all of his own. He brought in $2 million for Mel Gibson. Oh, here is the Shaq Jesus. He's so cute. Oh, here is African-American Jesus. This is Chinese Jesus. This is when I Googled it. I'm not making fun. I Googled these, okay? Oh, this is hot Hawaiian Jesus. He's also known as, who is he? Aquaman Jesus. How many of you guys, when you close your eyes and I see the women going, oh, I picture Jesus, that we know is Aquaman Jesus. This is Jamaican Jesus, man. This is the Mexican Jesus when I Googled Mexican Jesus. We don't know. His eyes scare me. This is I scare me Jesus. This is the indigenous Jesus. He was here before the white man thought they brought Jesus to the earth. Oh, this is the Irish Jesus. He's hiding his beer. Oh, this is the female Jesus, just in case you aren't offended yet. All the men are like, oh, this is our favorite at Christmas, so that we know we keep Christmas in line. This is baby Jesus. Santa better bow. We had a guy in our church that called him Satan Claus. I'm not going to tell my kid about Satan Claus. I'm like, oh, that's even a scarier picture. Oh, this is a good form that a lot of people had. In fact, just hold it here for a minute. Because this is the visual, the form that they had in their mind of who Jesus is. Not one miracle he was able to do in their hometown. Because they held the form. Oh, isn't that the carpenter's son? And because of that, the Son of God, the creator of everything, could not do miracles in that town. So what form are you holding that's causing him not to do and be who he is to you? And so let's go one more. Let's see what this is. This right here is Jehovah. They believed that it was Jehovah. They actually were at the bottom of the mountain when Moses was going up to speak to God. Am I so loud? I feel so loud. All right. It's Teresa says it's all right. I don't know. Some of you guys are like, please shut her up. Like, all right, go get some coffee. All right. So when Moses is going up to the mountain, God invited them all up. They didn't want to all go up and meet with who Yahweh, the real Jehovah, is, right? So they sent Moses up, and so then they began to create, just as we do today, who God is. See, you're serving the God that you created unless you let God be the creator. When you begin to live for the creator, the God of all creation, you honestly can't ever nail it down. Because the form changes. The essence doesn't change of who God is, but the form changes. He could be the little old lady in the supermarket, right? He could be the president of the United States. Don't shoot me. So when Moses came down from the mountain, they said, look, we took all of our jewels, we took all of our goods, and we created Jehovah. Because it was too confusing to serve a God that they couldn't nail down with their own mentality. So much like today, the reason we have all 44,000 different denominations is we got to nail it down. And who God is to you is who God is to you. That means something. Think about it. So someone can tell you who God is to them, and it's oh my God, I don't know that God. I haven't had the experience. I remember the first time someone laid hands on me, and I was raised Catholic. We didn't go to church all that much. And I went to a special meeting at some school, and I don't remember a thing the guy said. He was kind of a weirdo, you know. I'm like, this is strange. And all I know is something in here was going, go to the front. And my sister said, go. So I went to the front. We were a Votech. The guy lays hands on me, and I'm praying in tongues. I didn't even know what the tongues were. I didn't even have a mindset to say this was from the devil. You know what I mean? So that's the God to them. One more. We got to do one more. We didn't offend everybody. This is just, this is Russell's Jesus. Russell has a Jesus. All right, that was just what kind of people are you? What manner of man are you that you would laugh at that? That's sick. So we're going to talk about form really quick, and Alex is going to jump in here. So the word form, what are you saying about your mom? Your mom. Your mom is Jesus. Okay, so he's in the fetal position crying because he did not know his mom was Jesus. Okay, so the word form means shape or structure. Now, mind you, listen. Each of us have a form of who God is in our mind. It's the smallness of our mind. We want to wrap our mind around it. If you can wrap your mind around God, you're serving a little bitty God. Your mama, my mama, hanging up the clothes. Your God punched my God in the nose. Did it hurt? No, your God is so small. Okay, so if you have all of us do, I'm not condemning you, we're laughing at ourselves, okay? You're not laughing at someone else, you're laughing at you, okay? So the carnal man, the natural man, has a picture or an image of who he is, and this is what God loves to do. He loves to blow your mind. He continually blows our mind, and he's altogether indescribable. Right? And just when we begin to see and just try to put words to it and what words we could have and how cheap, and even as you're saying those words, they don't man up to what you saw or what you're experiencing because it's spirit. And then as soon as you kind of start living by what you just experienced or what you're learning, then if you're willing, it'll unfold into the more. And it'll never end. So the word form, we can get stuck in it. That means the body, external appearance or a figure. It's established. It's a method or a procedure. the way we're supposed to do church, the way you're supposed to do relationships, the way you're supposed to serve God. It's where we get the word formula. It's a mold. Hey, why don't you go ahead and fill out this form? Oh, who raised their hand and got born again today? Why don't you go ahead and fill out this form? All right, just in case I didn't offend everybody. It's a pattern, a structure, an element, a plan or design, a known ability by an athlete. The athletes, what do they perform? They have really good form. Okay? So we're laughing, and it's okay, it's healthy when your higher self, your spiritual self, your Christ mind, when you can see the thoughts in your natural self. And what will happen is your experiences will begin to create a form of who God is. How many of you guys, it's okay, you don't have to raise your hand, but just laugh at yourself. You've been really mad at God before. Okay, so it's the God that you created, so he's okay with it. He's not offended because that was never him anyway. Like that God that you thought didn't come through or wasn't there, it was never him anyway. So he's okay that you're mad at him, because it'd be like being mad at the dog Jesus or mad at the calf. The image that I had in my mind that God wasn't there for me isn't really who he is anyway. Isn't that good? So we can laugh at ourselves, and this is what helps us transcend. Because listen, guys, it's the attachment to the form. Everyone say attachment. It's our attachment to the form of who we believe God to be that keeps us in the dark. It keeps us from seeing the more. It keeps us from the discovery. And this is who we are as a people. We are here to discover. We are not here. There's things that I told you I'm going to put this on the website. A few people that are challenging like me. This has been so good for me. Thank you for challenging on things, because it's going to help me redefine what we're here to do. Number one, we're not here to tell you how to think. Okay? We're not here to give you truth. We're here to unveil the truth that God planted on the inside of you. We believe that God planted an incorruptible seed in mankind, and at the resurrection that you were there. You just didn't know you were there. We're here to help you not serve the God that you've created in your own mind, the small God. He's small in my mind too. I'm not making anybody feel less. In this part of my mind, he's small. And that's why I purposefully say I will not let my experiences dictate who God is. And they try to. Ask God where it's happened to you. Where it's happened is when you stepped out and did a business and it failed, and now he's speaking you to do another one and you won't do it. That's where you're letting the last experience dictate your today. The way it happens is you loved so deeply at the last church or in the last marriage that now you have walls up, but you can't be vulnerable. You can't be childlike. That's where you have allowed that form to dictate who God is in you. And so what we're here to do, what God's house is about, this family, is to help you just come into your authentic self, your God self. It's you, guys. And all the way through, as you're making mistakes, it's all right. You're coming into the discovery. So we're not discovering a God in the sky. We're discovering a God within us. And he's only good. And when you're mad at him and it looks dark and dense, that's when you say out your mouth, God is only good. Okay, so density, the word form brings us to the word density, okay, which can mean ignorance. Dense means ignorance. Makes you blind to the spirit realm. It's the Saul-Paul transformation. What he saw to be true, the God that he was serving, he was giving his whole life from the time he was 3 years old, Saul of Tarsus, right? He's given his whole life to it. He was serving it with every bit of strength within him. He didn't know he was blind until God came and showed him he was blind. And during that time, he was taken up into the heavens, and he began to see who God was. So, when we are attached to form, everyone say form. I only have two big statements, and then you're taking this. When you're attached to form, we're evaluating. So you're evaluating, okay? I'm helping. This is growth for us. This is growth for me. You're attached to reputation, titles, events, people that are attached to form, the form of Jesus, the historical Jesus. They're always telling you what's happening on a timeline because they're attached to the timeline. There's not condemnation if you're attached to the timeline, but as you transcend in your mind, as you come up to a higher space within you, you begin to realize there's no time. In other words, the Sabbath day was always Jesus. All the feasts were always about Jesus. Right? And so then you don't have to dot your I's and cross your T's and prove anything. If you feel that you have to prove something, it's because you're still attached to form. How do you prove the Spirit? How do you prove the Spirit? You don't know where it's going or where it's coming from, but the movement, that's the only way. I mean, how do you prove to me that you know God, that God lives inside of you? You can't prove it outside of the fruit that comes out of your life. And you can't produce that from form. All right, so we're attached here to calendars, events, titles. We need to nail things down. We need to nail down our beliefs. People that want you to nail down what you believe. Now, re-explain this to me. It's because they're attached to form. I have been there. I'm probably there somewhere now. God's just showing us where we're there. But here's the deal. The reason we don't want to be attached to form is because that's where it's dense. That's where there's density. That's where we can't see. Spirit is fluid. People are like, why do you keep saying that? Because until we realize it, it's your spirit, where you're in union with God, it's fluid. I can't control you. I can't tell you what it's supposed to look like. You have a path. You have a path. You have a reason that you're still on this earth right now. I know things are, y'all, it's not just going to let up. It's not a dooms thing either. God is using it to mature the sons of God in the earth so that we can govern, okay? So that it's very clear. He's helping us see so clearly as the gray is being removed. Thank you, God, right? Okay, so let me say this about density. I read this statement, and it just resonated with me. This is my second real big point. Here you go. Y'all ready? He said, I didn't like this statement. How many of you guys are raised charismatic, went through all the miracles, supernatural stuff? Let's see your hands. Okay, those of you aren't, just look at the weirdos. It's okay. All right, I was in it. You know, all of it. It was so beautiful. And 94 and John Arnott and all of it. It was 7 years of just all kinds of crazy stuff. Beautiful. Okay. So I really didn't like this statement when he said in the old days, because maybe for some of us it wasn't that old. But I didn't know exactly where this guy was coming from. But what he said is in the old days, he said the earth wasn't as, didn't have as much density. And miracles were more automatic. Oh, I didn't like that statement. But I knew that God was speaking to me in it. It's the difference if you've ever been to a foreign country. Like Hunter, my youngest daughter, got to, when they were praying for all kinds of miracles and stuff when they were in India for a while, she got to pray for a girl that was deaf and blind, right? She's deaf and completely healed. Like miracles like this. Being a part of this level of miracles, like Alex was a part with Heidi Baker in Africa, and you have to have raised the dead to be a pastor on staff. That's it. Like, I just want your credentials. Put that in your bio. You know what I mean? Where'd you graduate from? Oh, we don't care. Have you raised the dead? How many? I've only raised 37 from the dead. Well, I guess you're ready. So you go to these foreign countries, and they don't have the density, as I've been thinking about what density is, and we've talked about radio waves at different points. So what I wrote here, these are actually transmitters, and then you are a receiver. We are created at I before E except after C. I knew it was one of those. Okay, so you are a receiver, ultimately, when Jesus came around, God has his remote control. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, here, this is where we go. Oh, all right. It was just so easy for him because he just did what he saw the Father do. But we live at a time when I started meditating and thinking about density. And if there's, not that we just settle for that statement. I'm not saying that we go, oh, back in the day. I don't like talk about miracles back in the day. They are now, right? But there's something happening that's different in the earth, that people are becoming responsible for their own life, their own miracle, their own manifestation, and it's maturity. And so God's using all these spheres in the earth to mature us. So each of these represents spheres, and there's more. I just wrote a few, okay? I really wanted color. Let me get some color. So basically, you have each of these have opinions, and they're shouting. And you just take the medical world. It could be one diagnosis, and they're going to give you 102 different opinions on what to do, and then it's going to change in time. These are literally going over the airwaves. Right now, if we had a really good radio, we could tune in and we could have every language. Every language could be in this room. If we had a really good one, like CIA level, we could hear secrets and we could hear, you know what I mean? So here we go. So then you have the health and wellness. They came through, and they're now considered the weird ones because this big pharma needed a lot more money, and so they made them anyway. So these guys, I had probably, and I'm thankful for it. I'm only thankful. I know it's people's good heart, but I cannot tell you the regimen that I had Darren on. All these things given. And you're just like, what do I do that's right? This is good for you. It's not good for you. This is the best thing for you. This is Jesus in a pill. How many of you guys have Jesus in a pill form? You know what I mean? Like, that's what's being offered from the health and wellness, We're here to laugh at ourselves. Don't get offended. You can, but whatever. All right. So then you have the political thing, and they have their agenda, man. It's going across the earth. We're waking up to it. We're realizing that they're in bed with the media, and they're telling us how to think. Even if you're not listening to the radio or the TV, which if you are, bless your heart, you're just getting denser and denser. You are. I don't mean to be rude, because these guys they have one agenda, and they're going to create fear in the minds of man, in the densities. What am I doing? Oh, new markers. We're getting dense. All right, so in the atmosphere right now, okay, what's the best way? And you can get some now really good Christian books on how to manage your money. I'm not telling you not to get those, okay? But I am saying that there's all these different voices that are coming from the business world and how to do things, all right? You guys get the picture. That's one side. These are they're literal. They can be measured, hertz. They can be measured, the megahertz, all of these things. They're literally in the atmosphere that's caused our atmosphere to be dense with opinion, with thoughts. This is a big one. Remember I said last week, I just love this one. This one just makes me, if you wouldn't let your mama or your daddy choose your husband or your wife, why are you letting them choose your church? Why are you letting them tell you how to believe? Why are they letting you tell them what God's saying? That's just, remember, what are y'all out there? Okay, so here we have religion, and I know that we're so holy, we don't think we're on the religious one, but here we are. Just laugh at yourself. So we have all these thoughts of how God did it last time. Listen, if the wall of Jericho came down, God showed us how to do it, and we took a city, and God took it down. Then we would have written a book about it. We would have made a theory out of it. We would create form around it, and then we would criticize those that aren't doing it our way. Okay? That's all from this realm. All the spheres. These are the worldly systems. They're not good or bad. They're good and bad. They're knowledge. Okay? This is what we're full of. This is what your minds are full of. This is what your children's minds are full of. This is what we're full of, guys. And then we don't know what the voice of God is. And then you want to settle. I like that guy. I trust him. That's the voice of God, what they're saying. And then God's not going to allow you to follow them wholeheartedly. It's not about following a man. We're not here to rebuild the hierarchy system. I don't care how sincere they seem. Okay? God's going to make sure that they stumble a little bit, or they stumble in your mind, because he's jealous for you. We sang about it. You have the God of heaven in you. It's one voice. It's one frequency. And we can hear God, but we're not going to do it without stillness. We're not going to do it unless we're willing to starve out some other voices. See, what we do then is we become a receiver. We get a word from God. It was like he told me back in 1942 that this is how he was going to do it. And now, but we're living in the density of the world. The density is what causes the form. So if I'm standing in clear water, I can see my feet. Okay? If I'm standing in muddy water, I can't see my feet. It's more dense. If I'm standing in mud, I can form it. I can create a golden cow and serve it. I can nail it down and prove it. Are y'all out there? And so listen, I know I say this to scripture a lot. It's the only time Paul said to strive for anything, and he talked about entering into a rest, and that rest literally means an abode, a dwelling place. I'm telling you guys this, it's not going to come. There's not going to be maturity while you're receiving everything. It's just not. You mean it? I mean, and the work is rest. The rest is from every voice. We have been programmed to live like people, and we've been programmed by opinion. And it's not enough just to disagree. Listen, I could listen to the media, and this is how we were raised, man. And I woke up one day and went, man, I don't want to be old and in a coffee shop just bitching about the government. What I saw most of my life. Did you guys like that? I spelled. But that's how it was. It was like all the time, just griping about the government. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, man, when you're done listening, you want to fight somebody. I want to fight somebody. Let's start a parade. You know, I've been in a few parades. Josie and I were in an anti-abortion parade when she was little. Like, let's do something. I'm sure I changed the world in that parade. I don't know. But anyway, so my point is, if all I'm doing is I'm turning and I'm complaining back, it's the same frequency. It's the same frequency, guys. We are created and we are here on the earth during this, whatever it's called, pandemic. We're here for the purpose to hear and respond to heaven and heaven alone. We've got to starve it out. We've got to start. It's what Alex said. And it's going to feel, your mind will go crazy at first. It's going to make you feel like you don't care. Even from your family, you got to pull away from their opinions, their thoughts. You have been conditioned until you were 7 years old to think like your parents taught you to think and how culture taught you to think. So there's a reprogramming, and I'm telling you, God is putting us on the fast track. There is an acceleration. There is a revelation, an understanding that you begin to see. You get around that. This is why I got on the path a few years ago. I didn't care. It wasn't after if it was biblically correct. Okay? If somebody was operating in something and it was available to me, I would listen to it because I'm trying to provoke that part of me that wants to rise up and really be. Does that make sense? Like whenever Karuna introduced me years ago to Kirby, I wasn't questioning if it was of God or not of God. If it's not of God, I'm going to be even more ticked off, even more excited too that I can have it. I'm not scared of being deceived. I want to be provoked. Listen, guys, us that have lost some loved ones, we have 3 different families in this room. We have a family that's in ICU right now, and another one in the hospital. We have somebody else, another couple that they're home. Their parents have COVID. It's just a different day. What's it doing to you? It's here to help you. It's here to provoke you. It's what David said when he came and his brothers were mocking him because he's coming, oh, you just came, and, he's like, here to bring him cheese. You just came to watch the fight. And he's like, is there not a cause? Like, get out of my face. You guys aren't doing anything but eating cheese. Like, eat your cheese, right? All right, you ready? You guys even know that story about David and the cheese? All right.
It was on Veggie Tales, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, watch Veggie Tales.
Brings the cheese to them. So in the spirit of understanding the way our minds have been programmed, I just want to break down spirit, surrenderance versus religion and Christianity that we have been taught in the past.
And she's talking about me because I raised her, so whatever.
Not directly. No, it's all right. And I was going to write Christianity, but I decided that might offend some people, so I just wrote religion. Offend.
I just showed Jesus the dog.
This book that I'm reading right now, he's sharing with people what God has been telling him, and I wanted to read some of this because it just struck me to my heart. Because we're exposing illusion. That's what Sheila's up here doing. She's exposing your own illusion, your own programming of your mind. What alone is real resides within you as your very soul. It is your heart, and it can only be truly known. Silence is the threshold of wisdom and divine. Everything that she's talking about right now, all the frequencies, it's in silence that we hear God's voice. It's in silence that we're in alignment and in tuned to be able to hear outside of all the noise. I am only known, and this is God speaking, I am only known in surrenderance. And in every area that you feel resistance, it's the resistance of wanting to let go of that programming. I feel really loud too. Let me write this. So, as I've been studying religion and Christianity and the core beliefs that they have taught people, which is programming, which is setting belief systems within yourself that you didn't even know that you truly believed. And so I'm going to write those down. The first one that they did, what happened was these men got together and decided they're going to control generations of people. They're going to control belief systems that were going to affect their children's children to have control and power. And so they're sitting here, how do we do this? One, we take away the people's presence. We put God in the future. We put something for them to wait upon, that it takes away your present moment and your power of living right now and being present. So they always put something in the future which doesn't actually exist. The only moment that does exist is right now in the present moments. So they take away your presence. So we're empty inside, we're dead, just walking around zombies, waiting for something to happen, instead of recognizing the power of the now and the presence that we have in this moment to change things and to affect things. So I'm going to write that right here, the future. And by doing that, they also take away your future, because they give you a future that doesn't exist and it isn't real. So they're taking away any other concept of what future you may have, because you're waiting for the future they're telling you're waiting for, when God's going to come back and fix everything. That never happens. So it keeps you waiting. And so in spirit, it's always right now. Whatever you're going through, whatever situation you're in, the answer is in the now. It's in your presence. It's in your alignment to be one with God and understand, I have the answer that I'm looking for. The second thing was to separate God from you, to create an entity in the sky that we worship, that we come to church and we do our songs, we listen to the preacher, and it created separation. Yep, oneness. I'm not very good at drawing. So it took the power of understanding that everything is God, everything around you, the experience of God. Can you put the fish picture up there, please? And they said, no, this experience is God. This is where you come to worship, to pray. This is God. And everything else isn't God. Yeah. Everything else is man. Everything else is just the world. And you're living in a fishbowl in the ocean. And you're so limited within that bowl, not being able to recognize that everything around you is God. Everything around you is oneness. And so the deep belief is separation. The deep belief is waiting, is future. They completely took their presence, your presence, because they were trying to take the power away from people to understand what they had the ability to do. And then they put someone in the pulpit, a preacher, a pastor, the man of God, to tell you what to believe so that you couldn't think for yourself. You couldn't have the experiences for yourself. And then with that came guilt and shame, because if you were having experiences for yourself, it was not of God.
Right. You're going to kill them.
And it took the power away from the people. And so as we transition into this empowerment of the people and what that structure looks like, it does look like us sharing our experiences. Whether you believe it to be true for you or not, it doesn't matter. It's a shared experience. It's a shared oneness. It's a shared connection that whatever you believe to be true and whatever I believe to be true doesn't matter, because we can connect as one, because we're all in one and we're all part of God, and it's all God and all our experiences.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
So from the tree of knowledge, we judge. That means you separate. You're always separating. It's, picture somebody look on a tree going, this is good, this is bad. And that's in your subconscious, okay? So whenever someone gets up and tells a testimony or a story of what happened to them, and you think, I don't believe that, it's because you're living from, you're operating out of the separation. So let me tell you this in real time. We knew what hell wasn't. Once you begin to understand the love of God and experience it, you know that what we've been taught is not what hell is. But we weren't ready. Darren's not going to define it until he knows that God's telling him to. We had people like trying to pull him out of it. Like, do you think hell is real? Like that's a pretty big statement. It's obviously says stuff in the Bible about hell. You know what I mean? And so, but we knew what it wasn't. But we're okay with mystery. Okay? So then we come here, we move to Houston, and somebody tells us that Nancy Cohen has a message where she goes into hell and preaches and gets people out of hell. We hadn't listened to the message, but we're already in a space where we don't judge. We don't want to go to that tree and say, I've already decided if that's good, if that's bad, because we know what that brings us, right? So Darren said, I'm not going to judge it before I even listen to it, right? But so then he's going to go to the source. Everyone say, to the source. You have the source. You have the author of everything within you. So he's began to seek the source. In it, that's where he met Absalom, and Absalom brought him through hell and showed him what it was, taught him all about it, and taught him how it's all redemptive. Am I telling you to believe that? No. I'm saying go to the source. I'm saying certainly don't believe what somebody else taught you that it is a different way. If you're choosing if you should believe Grandpa or Darren, and well, look I see a little more fruit in Darren, but you're still choosing. Okay? So what it does is it provokes you to now go within into the heaven within you and begin to let God speak to you. Once it's true to you, it's true to you. Yeah. Who do men say that I am? That's who he is to you. Okay? The Romans needed to see him like that. Pilate needed to see him like that. It all was part of the script. It's okay however you see him, but it's going to limit you in your experiences in this earth. Right. Who do you say that I am? Right. Oh, you're the Son of God. You went to the source, Peter.
That's good. And then religion took what Christianity looks like, what a Christian looks like, and defined it. It looks like following these rules. It looks like going to church on Sunday. It looks like living in guilt and shame for your sin. It looks like tithing. Looks like giving your money, right? And over here in spirit, it looks like neutral. It looks like openness, oneness. So then these beliefs, and the reason I keep going back to this is because we don't realize how core these beliefs sit in us. That the moment that you see something that doesn't fit your image of what a Christian or what you've been taught to believe, it's a judgment. And it's automatic. It's on auto. Because it's been so put into our subconscious, the definition of what being a Christian looks like, what serving Jesus looks like. And so I'm trying to break down the fact that this system was created by man. It is an illusion that was created by man to keep you powerless and out of control. We'll keep them in control. Dude, this is amazing. Mankind creates it and then seeks it out to experience it again and again. solely in order to substantiate his belief that the illusion is actually reality. So these experiences, these beliefs that we held to be true, we need it to be true for ourselves. So we create these experiences over and over again to make that illusion reality, because we're trying so hard to make it reality. And it's in the surrenderance of, I don't even know. My illusions are no longer real, and I am open to God's truth and God's reality. But our everyday patterns are our mind is trying to define over and over and over what God looks like, what God is, what Christianity looks like, what being a good Christian looks like. And it creates resistance within us because there's not alignment with spirit to say, none of that is real. It's all an illusion and a conflict within yourself to keep you from peace. And God is only found in peace. Allow me to simplify. What is illusion? The world. Who is the creator? Mankind. Existing in the choice of separation. Mankind's quest to prove his creation has the value of reality. To prove his creation has the value of reality.
If you're upset when somebody believes different and you want to fight them, it's because you're attached to the form, but it's not a truth that you have. Mm. It's if you're fighting for a truth, it's not, you don't have that truth. You got it from somewhere else. Because once you see it, you're at peace with however anybody believes. There's no threat.
Exactly.
Like I used to think I had to fight for God. You know what I mean?
Pride is the only sin which can be said that exists. It arose first when was held in the thought of the Son, I am separate from my Father. Yeah. Everything that we have been taught, not here at this church, about religion has been based out of pride, which is the only existing sin. None of it was real. None of it was true. And at first it made me so angry that for a certain amount of years, I was kept in a place of powerlessness because of my own belief systems. And I am so profoundly honored to be in a family that encouraged me on how to think and not what to think. Because people have lived in this system for 50 years, 30 years, 60 years, their entire life, not knowing they had the power to overcome all of it all along. That it was an illusion, a cage. But you actually weren't in a cage at all. And the only sin that was committed here was the pride to think that this is the way to God and there is no other way. And so church and Christians have lived in pride and have lived in the ultimate sin to say, this is how you do it and everybody else is wrong and God can't be found in everything else. And they completely took God out of the world and we rejected it. And now it's in the state that it's in because of our pride. And we're in a transition right now to move back into oneness, to move back forgive us for the judgment and the pride, the self-righteousness to say that we have been right all along and you're the sinners. We're the sinner. We sinned. My heart has just been hurting over that because I've been in systems, other churches, and I lived in other places and went to and I just remember sitting there and feeling this isn't right what we're teaching people. This is not God. And people are saying it's God, and we're in the ultimate sin of being in pride saying, no, this is God. And if you disagree, you're not of God, and you're in sin. And it's been so ingrained in us, you guys, even me who's been raised under this family, it was still so ingrained in me to automatically just have judgment toward everyone I interacted with. Literally everyone. And then I've had so much judgment towards everyone else that I have an incredibly amount of judgment towards myself. And I've come to this place of self-hatred and seeing what I is. And God said, it's the judgments that you've held other people to. of somehow thinking that you're better because you're not doing this, or you're better because this isn't happening, or this. To the point it's so ingrained in our brain that when I meet judgment, and separation, it's separating us from one from each other. And what's happening right now, you guys, is a union. That we were never separate. We were always in oneness. We just couldn't acknowledge it because of the illusion of separation and the illusion of what was right and what was wrong. And there is no good and bad. It's just neutral. And God cannot operate in a place of definition. If you can define him, you do not know him. And I have been in a place of going through and breaking down every judgment I have ever held anyone to. And let me tell you, there was a lot. And I thought that I was a very open and forgiving person, and I was a very loving person. And that is my true nature, and that is your true nature. But the conscious density patterns of mindset that were so ingrained in our brain is what I'm trying to speak to right now. It's not who you are. It's never who you are. It's never who your soul was or who you were born to be. But the patterns, it's literally we have been brainwashed. Yeah. And it's brainwashed with separation so that they could take your power, so that you wouldn't recognize who you are, so you wouldn't validate your experiences. You wouldn't validate when you heard God for yourself, because only the man in the pulpit can do that. And it put people in guilt and shame for thinking they could hear God. Or they're just trying to glorify themselves, or they're trying to get attention for themselves. When in reality, people were trying to hear that voice and then felt guilt and shame for trying to hear that voice. Yeah. And it's an entire system to keep you out of power and so that you give me your money. Yeah. And facing those judgments and recognizing they're not me is all that it takes to drop them. The moment a thought comes into my mind that is judgmental, I'm like, that's not my thought. Right. And I let it go, and it falls off my mind like that. Yeah. And the more I move into being neutral, being used, being open, being oneness. And the more I step out of the painful illusion that never was you. That's why there's been so much resistance. It never was you. You were never meant to live in the fishbowl inside of the ocean. And what you were looking for all along was around you all along. But our judgments created this glass bowl to separate us from spirit and truth. And this message that is accelerating, that is opening our minds, is showing us that so many of our experiences God is in, and we just haven't acknowledged it. Down to death. Somehow that's now separate from God. That is God. That is love. The passing, the transition. But somehow in the middle of that, we're blaming God. Why didn't you save that person? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't this happen? Everything you thought should have happened is all an illusion anyways. And it is the truest form of love. To be able to watch and see that transition happen in somebody's life. And I had this experience, and I won't go into full detail, but I was meditating and I asked to see my dad. And I knew he wasn't, there's times when I can just feel his presence. I feel it a lot here, just his hand or his presence in this room. And at this point, I couldn't feel his presence. And I asked, I just said, they said he's busy. I'm like, well, of course he is. And she said, you don't understand. We've been waiting a really long time for him. And I felt the heaviness of what she was talking about. And she said, he had work to do here. We've been waiting for him. We've been waiting years and years and years for his presence here. And I just felt this release from me of the idea that I thought he needed to be here to make something happen or to move us into this next transitional move that we're moving into. there's been a little underlining anger that he's not here to see this. And she said, the transition of this is because of his passing. It's the release into earth of that person as they transition. And then she showed me him agree to go out the way that he went out. He saw it. He knew the magnitude of who it would affect. He knew what it would bring to the planet when he made that choice. And he said, I agreed to it. And in that, I can't put words to the heaviness that I felt. And so you guys, these loved ones that we've lost and that have transitioned, they agreed to it for you. It's not what we've known to be true. It's out of a place of so much love. And there's times when we can't see it, but it is out of a place for right now. It is out of a place for this acceleration that is happening, the light that is being spread in people, to change the way we view things, to come into this age of love, and to come out of the programming that we have so been programmed to think this is love and this isn't love. If you say that anything is not love, that is pride and that is not God. To take anything outside of love and say, no, this is death, this is bad. It's the ultimate sacrifice of love. It's what Jesus came here and did. His death released love. It was the ultimate sacrifice of love. And so as we go through these times, you guys, it's not a physical, it reveals itself in a physical way, but it is a war mentally. It is a breaking down of illusion and what is real and what is not real. And you know what? We don't even need to know. We don't even need to know the definition. We just need to be neutral and open and loving towards one another. So any thought that I have that is not out of a place of love, it's out of the opposite spirit. It's out of a programmed religious mindset. And it's okay that you have those because they've been put into your mind since the day you were a child. But that's how we move into this place, and that's how we transition, always from a place of love. If you feel any resistance in whatever area you're going through, just move into love, because there is no fear in there. And the number one thing the reason why we're up here, the reason why we're even talking about these things is because the broadcast of fear is what lowers that vibration, lowers that frequency, makes it more dense. It is the reason why our news is what it is. It's so purposeful because they knew this was coming. They knew people were going to awaken, and they said, what do we do to keep it? How do we control it? How do we keep this under control? And the number one thing that they are using is fear. So if you feel yourself step into that fear, understand you are being controlled. You are allowing your brain to live into their illusion and come up under that. And you make one step to say, I choose to live out of love. I choose that every situation in my life is not fear-based, but is love. And it happened because of love. To show me more of who I am in God. To show me more of who I am in oneness. Never separation. And it's so powerful, you guys, because it makes me angry when I watch the news. Because I'm just like, how dare they get on there and scare everybody? And the thing is, I have loved ones who are so afraid. You can feel the fear. I went to a dinner last night, and this guy coughs, and he goes, oh, I got tested. I don't have COVID. And I said, it's okay. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of it. And he completely relaxed. But he felt like he needed to let me know because his voice was a little hoarse. And I said, it's all right. I'm going to sit down. It's all good. But that fear is controlling people and capturing people. And it's for us to go out and release that love. It's for us to talk about it and to say, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid. Because it is an illusion, and it's the battle that is happening right now. I know that there was prophecies about it for years, and it felt like it was going to be a very physical war. Yeah. you could feel the heaviness when you would hear these words coming up, but it is a war on the mind.
Right.
And the more you step into love, the more you release it without even knowing.
Say the percentage you're talking about with raising.
So this, I've been listening to a lot of people recently, and he was saying that in the earth, there only needs to be a 15% of enlightenment to raise the enlightenment of everybody else. It doesn't need to be 100%. Not everyone needs to believe this. Everyone's playing their part. It's the 12. It's only 15% of the population to raise the entire frequency and consciousness of everybody else. So the reason we feel this heaviness that's happening right now is because we're carrying other people with us. We're dragging them along. And Darren was experiencing this so far before. He was carrying a lot of us as well. And it was in that passing and that release that he said, it is your turn. Yeah. It is not for one man to get up here and speak and tell you what to think. It is for us to get up here to encourage you how to think, to validate the experiences you've already been having, to validate the words that God's already been speaking to you, to validate the dreams that are in your heart for you to pursue. It is in that validation. I remember hearing my dad, he would get up here and he would share a story or an experience he had, and you could feel it. You could feel the realness of it and the heaviness of it. And I would be like, I want experiences like that. And now I'm having experiences like that. And the moment I get out of that experience, my mind tries to tell me it's not real. My mind tries to tell me, well, that's just, that was something you imagined in meditation. It is in the validation of saying, no, I experienced that and I heard the voice of God. Right. And I can hear that for myself. And as you validate yourself, it is empowering you to be able to hear more of that voice. It is empowering you to step out of that system that told you only one person could hear God and that only one person could tell you how to think, and it was this structure and you were in this bowl. I remember as a child having experiences and knowing God was in it and feeling God in it. But if I told somebody, they condemned me for my actions. And I was like, I don't understand. How am I experiencing God in college when I'm partying and just having a good time? But then these moments would happen and it was profound oneness and this experience of God's love with people. And the reason those experiences happen is to show you God is in everything, every situation that you feel like he's not in. Guess what? He's in. And so I start shaking because I feel the heaviness of what is happening on this planet right now. And it's so exciting. And you guys, the only frequency we need to release right now is celebration. Celebration of life, celebration of each other, love of each other, happiness, joy. Those seem like, the fruits of the Spirit, so simple when we were taught in preschool and, in Bible school, but those are the things that you focus on to hear more of God, to align more of God, and to push away fear, and to push away judgment, and to push away pride. And the levels of pride that will be revealed are embarrassing. They've been embarrassing for me. I didn't realize I had that much pride. I didn't realize I thought I was right so many times.
And the embarrassment is the pride.
And the embarrassment is the pride. And Sheila,
This is why I like to be foolish, just to help you guys laugh at yourself. You guys want me to say one statement I heard John Crowder say? Yes. Jesus farted. Amen.
Jesus farted.
You have a humanity as well, and you can laugh at it.
Jesus farted.
We're going to make that to a shirt. And then underneath it, a real small print, it'll be like scripture print. It'll just say, pull my finger. Karun is offended. She's leaving.
She shakes her head. This past weekend, I felt led to go visit one of my friends, and I hadn't seen her in a very long time. And she was having these spiritual encounters. And you guys, she did not come from religion at all. So the fact that this woman has such profound knowledge is incredible because she had no foundation at all. And I knew it just came from spirit for her. And she started leading me into these spiritual experiences that I was having. Anyway, I'm sitting there with her, and I wasn't really sure why I was there. I mean, I wanted to hang out with her, of course, but lately I've been only doing things that are extremely purposeful. Even if I don't know it, I find myself in the middle of a moment that is extremely important and purposeful, and then I'm like, oh, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing here. And so I just started telling her, I was like, you should make a YouTube channel. And I was like, I really think you should do that. Like, you need to start sharing the things that you've been through and share with people. She was like, yeah, I've kind of thought about it. And so we went on and we're hanging out. And then I felt this intensity come up in me. And I go, oh, I feel really intense. But I'm telling you, you need to make this YouTube channel. Like, you need to push past that fear and you need to do this. 2 seconds later, you call me and what did you say?
I said when I put it on Facebook, I heard God say that when God calls you small,
Divine.
When you hold on to your smallness of thought, when God calls you divine, is the epitome of pride.
So she was telling me all the reasons why she couldn't do it. And she was like, well, this and that. And my mom calls, and I put my mom on speaker because I had my watch on, and I'm like, hello, Mom, you're on speaker. And she was like, the smallness that you're holding on to is the epitome of pride. And my friend's sitting right there, and she's like, I'm like, ooh, you should make that YouTube channel, girl. I'm like, obviously there's a message to be heard here. But that's in all of us. Right now, there's this resistance of, and I know that this strikes a chord in me of living your dream. That strikes a chord of despair because I had dreams and then you let them go because of reality, right? Reality. But we're now in a place of God saying, I put those things in your heart for a reason. If you're not going after them, it's because of the epitome of pride. And for you to humble yourself is a way to hide and to make excuses for living in that pride and not doing what he's telling you to do. And that hit really hard because I don't want to get up here and speak. I do not want to be on camera. And God said, well, apparently you do. Okay, maybe I do. But I said, well, God, other people have better things to say. Other people, epitome of pride. If you're not living in your full potential, if you are not living the dream that is in your heart, it's because you've chosen to live out of pride. Because your reality around you, your life, your job, your spouse, every relationship is an example of what's going on inside of you. It is just a reflection of what is happening for you. So if dreams are not manifesting in your life, it's because there's an area. There's something that you've listened to. There's some type of belief that you have believed to be more true than what God said over you and what God put in your heart for you to do and for you to manifest on here. Living your dreams, living what's in your heart is a manifestation of love, is a manifestation and a release to let other people live in that love, is to release other people to live in those dreams. So whatever he's put in your heart that you said you couldn't do, that's pride. That's pride and it's not God.
In a family, let's look at it like this. If you think completely different than your family, but you felt too guilty to rise above it, then that is you holding on to the pride of identifying with your natural family rather than your God. If there would be times if I felt somebody, especially like when I was single and went into the church, if I felt like somebody was insecure around me, I wouldn't wear makeup, I wouldn't dress up if we went on a double date or something like that. I would want to hide that part so that person would be okay. And do you guys understand what I'm saying? Okay, so you withdraw so that because and your voice will tell you, okay, this is what it would look like. I worked my tail off. We would do these youth camps. Tons of people would come. I mean, I was the main one working it, right? Getting it ready. When it would start, I wouldn't get on the stage. I'd literally go sit in the sound booth where the intercessors were up there, like the Wizard of Oz pulling the strings. And I'm up there. And 2 years in a row, one of the head ladies had to come get me, like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I don't want to be in pride. I didn't want to be on the stage. I didn't want to shine. Like if you knew me in high school or whatever, I never handed out pictures of myself. And then God had to tell me my great humility was pride. Like, take it. So in other words, if you're trying to govern yourself to make sure you're not in pride and you're the one governing yourself, that is pride. Like God is saying, take the jump, release his glory, be fully him. You're going to get knocked in the teeth a little bit. People are going to criticize you, but you're with a family that wants you to shine. And true families want you to exceed and to excel. There's no threat here. There's no threat for you to fully be in your glory and be who you are. There's enough for everybody. It's the abundance, right?
It is always fear of one's own death that blocks the recognition of the kingdom. The number one thing that religion has preached, has subconsciously put into your mind over and over, is the fear of death. That is why the number one thing that is being preached on the news is the fear of death. It is the ultimate fear behind everything else. It is the fear of dying. And religion, during the Roman times, your loved ones were dead and they're burning in hell, so you could go pay penance to get them out of hell. Yeah. They would drive fear of death. Once you have no more fear of death, you have no more fear. Yeah. It is the ultimate fear that keeps you in an illusion so that you can't see the kingdom of God. Because it's the ultimate thing that makes you feel out of control and out of power. And it's the thing that you don't have any control and power of. Except for if you knew the truth, you would know that you already agreed to it. You already agreed to your death before you were even born. And you're still alive. And you're still alive. Your soul already existed before time. And you already watched out what was going to happen. And you said, I'm going to do that. Because it's going to affect everybody else around me. It's going to raise the consciousness. It's going to release love. So I'm going to allow that to happen. And you've already agreed to the pain. You've already agreed to the death. There is no fear in it because you already agreed to it when you were infinite, because you're always infinite. The illusion of death on this planet is this concept that then life is just over, that it's just done. It's the ultimate grieving, and it is the death inside of us that causes us to die inside. It's that fear of death that causes us to be dead while we're alive, while we're living. That's why you see people who usually lose a loved one, they're the ones who die inside. They're the ones who's still stuck in grief for 15 years. And that side of them, they just let go away, and it never came back. They're the ones living in the death of dying. The ultimate fear. It is always the fear of one's own death that blocks the recognition of the kingdom. If that belief is in your mind, that underlying belief of your own death, you're not able to feel the oneness of God. You're not able to align with that because you're still putting your fear, your trust in your own fear. And that's why they're preaching that to us right now, because it's the fear of loss of life. You're infinite. You're infinite. The purpose that you're here to bring, the light you're here to bring, is to release that off of you. That when someone comes into contact with you, they feel no death at all. They only feel life. They only feel your infinity. And they don't know what the words are for it. There was times you would be around my dad. You didn't have words for how he made you feel. The words for just his presence being in the room. He always made me feel safe. Like no matter what was happening, if I knew if I was in that man's presence, I was okay. Period. That is the presence of God. That no matter what the circumstances, no matter what is being said to us in every other outlet, media, business, family, no matter what is happening, I am a place of peace, that I know I am neutral, and whatever is happening, I'm in oneness with God, and it does not matter. And I know it's always coming from a place of love and to push us further into deepness levels of love. The last story I'll share is of my daughter, Jody. She fears nothing.
Picture. Just kidding. I don't have a picture. Can you show the picture of Jesus, Joni?
Children like her teach you a lot because Joni fears nothing. She'll just jump into the pool. Can't swim, just jumps in. And you're like, what are you doing? You can't swim. She didn't know she couldn't swim until I'm yelling at her, you can't swim, as she jumps into the pool.
She probably could swim until you said you can't swim.
What? I can't swim? And I'm just going to tell myself and be super honest, she really likes to take water bottles and pour them all over the floor. It does not matter how many times you tell her no, she is going to pour that water on the floor. She loves it. She splashes around and it does a little dance. Every time, juice, water, whatever it is, just pours on the floor. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm telling her no. I like sit her down. I'm like, Joni, water on the floor is a no. And this thought comes into my head, which is a programmed thought of, I need to break this behavior out of her. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to be on top of it. And I'm going to, instead of just putting the water or juice in a cup that's appropriate for her age, I'm like, no, we're going to, I didn't even think that. That didn't occur to me. I'm just going to break this habit of her pouring the water on the floor. And so I'm getting onto her and she starts crying. And I'm like, Joni, it's no water on the floor. She goes over there. She goes over there and she just like puts her foot in it and she's like playing in it like this, like, but it's fun. And in that programming of me thinking I need to break this pattern of behavior, I'm stopping some type of creative flow and some type of freedom in her to just pour the water on the floor instead of just cleaning it up and giving her a sippy cup where she can't pour it out. But it was my own pride to think that water doesn't belong on the floor, so I'm going to teach this 2-year-old, don't pour it out on the floor. And you guys, often it's our own mind that's talking to us when our spirit just wants to pour the water on the floor. There's no reason for it. We just want to dance in it. We just want to be that child that's enjoying splashing around in the water. But that other side of our brain that's like, I need to break this out of me. I need to clean, like this needs to be cleaned up right now. And when I saw the look in her eyes when I was telling her no and she started to cry, it just broke my heart that I would try to take the joy out of her heart. That's somehow more important to make sure there's not water on the floor than to realize how much fun and how much happiness she's having. Like, no, the floor being clean is more important than the joy in your heart. And I just felt this very strong conviction. And God was saying, that's what we do to ourselves all the time. Yeah. We live in this place of freedom and joy for glimpses of our lives, and then we condemn ourselves for living in that. And it's the programming of religion. It's the programming of this is how it's done. You do it this way. And then it puts you in guilt and shame because, well, why do I want to pour the water on the floor? I should just clean, I should just never do that. Something's wrong with me. I have an issue. And I saw in the moment that I was getting on to her for the 90th time, in her eyes, that she felt that, like something's wrong with what I'm doing. And I took that from her. I'm sure she's going to do it again. But in the moment. And I just felt like, God, tell us, like she was saying, Brittany was saying, to be gentle with ourselves during this time and to just allow that creative freedom and to allow yourself to be that child again and to trust again and have no fear again and to move into that just oneness and everything's going to be okay. I'm going to get a towel and I'm going to clean up the water and that's going to be fine too. Instead of living in this place of guilt and shame that religion has taught us is the way that you're supposed to live because it's righteous to feel guilt and shame for everything that you've done. Instead of acknowledging that everything I've done has brought me more and more into oneness with God and more into oneness with everyone around me, and that it's always been a blessing and it's always a joy and it's always for our good, and that it just keeps getting better and better and has nothing to do with your behavior. And a lot of the things that we're going to start seeing is just programming. And we can just deal with that by recognizing that's not who I am. That's not, I don't live in pride. I'm not going to live in judgment. And I'm not going to live in judgment towards myself. And if it takes you getting to a place of so much brokenness because of all the judgments you've held like me, where I had so much judgment other people that it was literally suffocating me because I was actually judging myself because we're in oneness, that it brought me to a place of I can't do this anymore. I can't survive like this. I can't live like this. I can't live every day like this.
The reason for the law.
Which was the reason for the law. Yeah, exactly. Was to show you that it's not something that you can do anyways. It was always to bring you to the idea, the reality that we're all in union in one. And the law was something created to show you that the rules we put on ourselves, these expectations we put on ourselves to make this, this, and this, to be right, is just pride. And that's all I have to say. I love you guys.
All right. She threw money at herself. Don't say that loud. Don't say that loud. We don't say that out loud. I told Josie, don't bring some of these books to church. She brought one of the books I gave her 3 years ago to church, and someone's taking a picture because they want to know where we're getting this stuff. It's not that it's secret, but some of you, it's the reason Darren wouldn't tell you guys about the Mormon lady that he wouldn't tell you for years because people couldn't handle that she was Mormon. But now, well, I don't care. So her name's Annalise Scarron, and she wrote 8 books, and the last 7, it was after she ascended. So she's one that you could read. Ascended, yeah. I don't even know fully what they said that meant. But the first one, she's going to quote Joseph Smith, but then she's coming out of it. And so anyway, it's really great. Annalise Scarron. I have 2 people. Anybody have 2 things you want to? 2 people? Come on up. I figured you did. And you, I knew. That's who, I did see you too. So come on up, Jesse.
Hi, everybody. Where are you? Super amazing. Thank you so much. There has to be a little bit of framework before I say the crux or the climax of this so it can carry the weight that it needs to carry. I'm 33 years old. I had panic attacks for 18 years of my life. And I was scared to death from the earliest memory that I have. Laying in bed, hearing voices saying, your parents are gonna die, you're gonna die, blah, blah, blah. Got my license, panic attacks to the point of pulling over, thinking about death on the side of 59, and I'm 45, which led me to drugs and homeless in downtown Houston at 18 years old, sleeping in Herman Park off Main and Fannin. And so I was powerless. Everything you said, all the programming made me feel powerless. I'm only human. I'm a mere human. I'm quoting her Facebook. I mean, over and over, all this stuff, this entire message. And I stood up here a month or 2 ago, and I talked about my buddy getting killed in front of me when I was a chaplain for a 1% outlaw motorcycle club, and it tried to solidify the fear of death in me really bad. I didn't sleep for 3 days. It was really, really rough. I got transitioned from one job to another in this past week to do security at my buddy's after hours. Now, for those of you who don't know, that is an interesting environment to be in as a sober person, you know? As a person that is not trying to be around violence or the negative attention of women or all the stuff I struggled with in my past, you know? And God's like, but I'm doing something, you know? And go figure, he's always doing something. I just am not aware of it most of the time, you know? I'm growing. And 2 days ago, I go to work and we're starting everything up and the owner doesn't let nobody in until people get there. And 8 1% outlaw motorcyclers pull up. And they're with 5 guys that are affiliated with another gang. And I stand in front of them and I'm like, no one can come in without the owner being here. And one of them grabs my hand and puts it on his gun. And he goes, like, I'm letting you know that, like, something's about to go down. And I watch one of the 1%er outlaw motorcycle guys take off his shirt. He's preparing to do something. And and if you can imagine what I just went through, like, I'm like, what am I supposed to do, you know? And then all of a sudden this peace came over me, and God was like, man, you've been talking all week about you are the apocalypse, Daniel. You are the messianic kingdom in manifestation. Like you are the thing that's going to silence the groan of all of creation, you know? And I'm like, all right, you know? And I was like, well, you know, what I used to did was I would be loosing angels and binding demons, you know? And he goes, you carry all realms. You carry the reality of angelic activity. Like, how about you just believe you're the ancient gate of me, you know? And so I just start believing this. And I'm just like, oh, innumerable angels? That's gangster, you know what I mean? You know? And so within just like 3 to 5 minutes of engaging with that, they all start getting on their motorcycles and leaving. And this one dude's super violent. He's got his shirt off. He pushes his way into the building. And God goes, I want you to imagine if you would have ran away. You know, like if you wouldn't have just believed who I am and who you are and who we are, like, man, people could have got killed again, you know? And so the thing I want to say is you're way more powerful than I am just finding out the 1% of power that we all have inside of us, you know? Scientifically, we have enough atomic energy in our body to destroy the world's greatest city and rebuild it instantly. But we're waking up, you know? So I want to say that you're more powerful than you are, and we're not waiting for another time. And if not you, then who? That's it. Yeah. You want to wait another 2,000 years? You know what I mean? If not you, then who? So death has got no power, all that stuff, every single thing that they just preached, this is a testimony confirming that all of it is true and all of it is you.
Man, that's beautiful. Hey, Daniel, when we were praying, man, I was holding you in my heart, and I just heard God say he's teaching you family. And I know the expectations that you have, but I just hear him saying, just be open to it, learn this family, and you'll carry it with you everywhere you go. And that's what that was, man. You carried the Father's heart into that scenario, and it literally transformed it. So, man, we just bless you, man. We love you. We're so glad you're here. This is the earthly us. That's earth. On earth, we're a receiver, okay? But the heavenly us is a transmitter, okay? So I want you guys to understand this process that we've been going to of retraining our mind and retraining our heart. There's a third dimension in there. There's a soul. Those things are expressions of the soul. And as the Father releases, and I believe some of you guys in this room have incredible revelation on what the soul is and how it interacts with the heart and the mind. Start speaking about it. Start sharing it with people, because we need to understand there's a third dimension in this. And what I'm hearing and seeing is, as we unlock the soul and how it's connected to the Father, it releases the might. It's what releases the power in the earth. And then instead of us being a receiver, that transmitter goes into these places.
There you go. Yeah.
What he just experienced, it sends us in here. Boom, transformation.
We are owners. Do you guys remember the song that I wrote a long time about the squatters? And we're the owners of the earth.
Hello, everyone. Since the 3-day Father has had me kind of like pull away from like all of this. And it was kind of hard because I was used to all of that. So I was used to TV, Facebook, what everyone else thinking, saying. So to come and go, like it was like instant. So he said pull away, and I just said, all right. So through that, I can hear. And I can hear all the secrets and lies that I have in here. Because when I have all this, then I can't hear. Because then I'm entertained by that. So when he's telling me all the other things, I'm just like, I'm good because I have all that. So he's had me come to a silent place, which it's kind of uncomfortable because you're having to get to know your inside noise. And you're getting to know your inside lies. So that's the main one, or the lies that you've created and that you've lived by, and then you bring your family to live with you. And so all of those things. And so I had to see all these lies that I was creating and stirring up. And so I was blaming like all these other things, but they're actually all mine. And so through this, Father's brought so many things, and it's a good thing because I'm in silence and I'm hearing like, oh, I believe that about myself. Oh, I believe that about those people. Oh, I believe that about that person. And it's uncomfortable, but it's him shining because he's so jealous. He's so jealous of me that he's gonna remove anything that's gonna separate my truth and his truth and me that I've created since I was little. And so the other day, last week, I was telling Sheila that I was driving to drop the boys off, and one of Darren's messages came up, and I said, "No, God, I want to worship right now. I don't want to learn." And he said, "Can you just listen?" And I said, "Okay." So I turned it on, and it was all about the thoughts. He said, "Father is after every thought that's not what he said you are." He said, and it's all right here. It's what he's after. So I'm listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's such a thing that was just burning in me like, God. So I go home and I'm getting ready to bring the boys to youth, and I'm getting ready and I'm in the bathroom. God said, "You're angry with me." And I said, "Father, how? I love you. I'm not angry with you." And he said, "Yes, you are." And I said, "Yeah, no, I love you so much." And he brought me back to the time when I was angry with him, and I was maybe 3 or 4. And he said, "Do you remember when you said, 'Why weren't you here with me?' Do you remember when he said, 'Why did you go through all of this and you were by yourself?'" And I said, "God," I was so little. He said, "Yeah, but from that moment you believed I wasn't there. You believed you were by yourself. And you believed that I didn't love you." And he said, "And you've created your life from that point till now." He said, "And that's why I've been stuck. And as much as you've tried, and you've tried to release, and you've read the books, and you've done the prayers, and you've done the worship, and you've done the work, you've forgiven the people, you're stuck from there." And I said, "God, I didn't know." So he said, "You're mad at me." And I said, "I'm mad at you. It's true." And I had to say it. That's the point, is you have to accept it. And that's one thing Darren talked in the message. He said, where you're feeling the pushback, don't try to run away from it. And I've tried to run away a whole lifetime. Like if I feel something, oh no, I can't feel that. It's not, God, that's not you. And Darren said, no, don't push it back. He said, swallow it, because it's going to come and get flushed out. So you don't have to run away from it. And I said, oh, so I told God, okay, I'm mad at you. And I was pissed, and I was yelling, like, I am mad at you. And I'm driving to youth, and I'm like, I am mad at you. So I drop the boys off, and I go with Eddie, and I said, Eddie, I need to help me with a meditation. And him and Ox are in there, and I said, Ox, do you want to do this? And he's like, okay. So we do this, and I'm, releasing all these people that I was mad at with this residue. Like I had taken out the whole stick, but there was still the residue that was in there of not releasing my family or my mom and my dad. And so I start releasing, and then I told him, I said, and I'm mad at God. And then Ox starts to speak to me as father, and he said, I'm sorry, I did let you down. So when Ox came in to be God to tell me he was sorry, would I accept God's apology? And I said, God, you're asking me to forgive you. It was an instant shift. And the next day, I started feeling that what I couldn't accomplish in 43 years started to happen, because it was there where I was stuck. I hadn't been able to buy a freaking computer because I was so indecisive. Was I going to get it wrong? Buying the wrong kind of computer. My kids have lived a life without a computer because I was scared of getting it wrong. And my life has been, I don't want to get it wrong, But God said, you can't get wrong something I've already done. So now I'm just releasing, trying to get it right. And I'm just living and being. And from there, the shift has happened so fast. But I did know that I was stuck.
This is the neutral that Alex is talking about. So even when she was saying that, I could feel when she said, when Ox said, I did let you down, opinion rose up. Did you guys feel that? Because then we're like, oh, God would not say that he'd let you down. We know that God's only good and scriptures will come forth or whatever, okay? But that's the tree. That's the separation. We just listen. We're just here to listen. And this is what God's telling us all, but this is what God's telling me, is that whatever you feel is okay. That's the neutral part. You're condemning yourself for what you felt. That you felt alone or you felt like he wasn't there. Quit condemning yourself. That's judgment that's keeping you in the density. Once you accept it, it's not accept it and blame yourself. Her swallowing it and letting it get flushed out isn't her accepting it and blaming herself. It's her just seeing that I held to a reality that wasn't you. All right, it's kicking over what I created so far in the sand, that sandcastle, and let's go make a sandwich and we're going to create again. And then that's the acceleration.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I love it. Oh, I love this, what's happening with you guys. I'm telling you, I wanted to write a list of things that we've done, and not that they're good or bad. I'm not saying that, okay? But we took so many people through Theophostics and Sozo. I mean, Teresa? Hours and hours and hours. I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but I'm saying that as you get on this accelerated track, it just comes up and out. You don't need to spend the rest of your life seeing the lies. Then you get to create from truth. Does that make sense? Yep.
So earlier in worship, I actually saw Daniel, your daughter came up to you with a pair of glasses, and then God started showing me all of this stuff about glasses and visions and seeing. So one of the eye conditions that a lot of people, especially younger children, suffer with is something called myopia. I'm going to write it out right here. Myopia. And it's a really fancy scientific word for nearsighted vision, right? So that's on the floor. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, why are you showing myopia? And mind you, we've been talking about forms and stuff like that. And basically, what myopia is what happens when the eye starts to overcorrect and focus so that it can see, right? Watch this. We've been talking about pride. It's all about me. Now, we're receivers. All of these things have made it all about ourselves. Watch this. Education, you're not smart enough. Religion, you don't know the truth. Family, you're a burden. Health, wellness, you're sick and it's your fault. I'm going to get to this side. Media, you don't know what you're talking about. Business, you're poor. Medical, big pharma, you're sick, but it's your family's fault. It's your genes' fault. Political, you're a bigot. You're a snowflake. Culture, you're racist. What has that done? It's made it about us, right? Now, how do people try to solve myopia? They put on glasses, right, so it can correct it. Going back to what Shiga talked about in the 3-day, right? God said, that's a really horrible exclamation mark. 1 second. Boink. There we go. Exclamation point. God created, he said it was good. God created, he said it was good. God created, he said it was good. And then the serpent. Did God say that it was good? Mind you, what are we doing with myopia? We're overcorrecting. We're bending the light. We are physically bending the light. So we put on these glasses, right? Because we think that's going to solve it. Some people wear glasses or contacts for the rest of their life. I'm not saying don't. I'm just, for the sake of this example. Right? So we put on these glasses. We put on this form going, oh, this is going to fix me from seeing, right? Notice, a lot of people's glasses, they're boxes. We see out of boxes, and we can only see from inside of that box. Anything outside of the frame, it's fuzzy, we can't see. We chose that. I've been doing a whole bunch of study about the Mosaic Law. I'm not going to go into all of that, but basically, guys, the Jews chose the law. Before the law was given, God told Moses, I've called them to be a kingdom of priests. All of them are priests. And he told Moses, go tell them in the morning to approach the mountain. Because God was saying they're priests. The next morning, God says, okay, come up the mountain. And Moses says, no, but you warned me to put bounds because of the people. They can't go up there. They didn't consecrate themselves. All of this, right? Okay, so now what, right? We're stuck with glasses for the rest of our life. We have to see out of the law. You see, the glasses, they were a tutor, just like the law. But we're in a place now in Christ. In fact, Jesus was saying it himself in Matthew. He was saying, now hear me, when your eye causes you to sin, throw it out because it's better, yada, yada, yada. That word eye is not the physical eyeball in my skull. It's the mind's eye, ophthalmos. He was saying, change the way you see. He's saying you don't have to wear the glasses to see, because the light, the sight, he and me, in fact, one more thing. Myopia, it's all about me, right? God is trying to show us, take away the M and flip it upside down, because we go from me to we. We're in full union all of the time. So, and I love that we're talking about taking accountability. The accountability is God, I, in myself, out of the lie. That was the law. Believed I had to wear the glasses, and believed all of these things. But now my accountability is I take off the glasses, and I don't believe the lie that I have to see, because we see as one.
You have to hear that again, huh? Well, there you go. You were dealing with that pride. I saw it earlier when you grabbed your heart when she talked about it.
If you make the statement that I've been making all my life, stop it. Well, I had a thought. I'm not going to say it's God. Stop it. I've always filtered my encounters to a form of religion. Friday morning, I'm walking through the shop. It's hot, and I walk past this mechanic, and I had the thought, but I'm not going to say it was God. I got a brand new bottle of Gatorade in the refrigerator. Give him that Gatorade. I didn't move on it. It happened to me 3 times. Well, about 2 o'clock, the call came over the radio. The manager's name is Kara. Kara, get your phone and come out back. We need you. So I go out there, and the guy that I was supposed to give the Gatorade to was being carted off in an ambulance. So what happened to Jimmy? Well, we don't know. So later I come back and I walk in, and the boss is telling Kara, I've been telling you, you need to get those guys some Gatorade. He was dehydrated. And for the first time since I've been coming here, the first time in my life, I was not moved by that, because it didn't define who I was. I would be so upset with myself and kicking myself because I missed God. I should have done this. I should have gave him the Gatorade. God says, son, the reason why you've been making that statement is because you approach everything with the separation mindset. So if you make that statement, like you were talking about the epitome of pride, stop it.
What are you going to do? You can go if you need to go. It is fun. Anybody else? It's something that's not on the subject. Song. Just kidding. No song from you. Will you put the picture of John G. Lake, that one up? There's 2. I think it's the second one. I just thought that at the end, we'll just pray and release some stuff over the airwaves with this ordeal that's like spinning off and off and off with COVID. The other one, that one's great, but there's 2. So John G. Lake, are you ready? You missed your time. Come on. I wanted you to have something.
Okay. Well, before I start, something about the hell thing. I like it to sing. Well, if heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, I don't want to go. If they ain't got a grand old opera, I may as well go home. No. No, the hell thing. Something that came to me. Somebody was talking about with talking about they went to hell and they saw hell and they were what was it? Oh, it was something this guy had gone to, said an angel took him to hell and said, if you don't accept the assignment, this is what's going to happen with all the people in hell. And somebody else is just they're going to come and take your place. If you don't take it, you're going to miss out or something. And so this was about like it sounds like people were burning in hell and all this. And I said, wait a minute. Okay, so I believe different now. And then what Sheila was saying earlier just made me think, maybe this needs to be said. I thought, okay, so in the Bible, so many things are symbolic and they're metaphoric. And I'm like, what about if people were, okay, well, and like Revelation was written off of vision that somebody had about the future. So what if these people are actually, they're not going to visit hell that's right then and there, like they're in hell right now. What about this just saying the metaphoric thing or symbolic, that it's all in their mind and he's seeing them in their mind burning, not even burning, just in torment. That it's that's what they're going to talk to people and not get them saved, but in a way get them saved, get them free from that. And it's now in the physical, but it's showing it like it does so many other things in the Bible, in the letters, that it's just not in the physical. It's giving you an example, a picture of what they're going through. I've been through it. I went through it, the gnashing of teeth, all that kind of stuff. I was going through it with the mental stuff. I don't wish that on anybody. My son was going through that. I think that's more of what took him out than the overdose, the drugs. That's what led him to the drugs. Believe me, I would have done drugs. I would have done alcohol, but I was too afraid of hell. My son obviously wasn't too afraid of hell, you know. He wasn't that afraid of death. But I just think about it. Of course, I'm not telling you what to think. It's just something that's been on my mind for a long time because I do not believe in hell. Flat out don't. If I did, my son would be there right now because people have said.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Write him on Facebook, not me.
Yeah. Hey, write me. I love it. I've already had people, a girl that I went to school with that's in Pensacola, Florida, said, I've been reading what you've been putting on there. And she didn't condemn me about it. No, she doesn't agree, but I'm like, fine. I mean, but now kind of what Alex was saying earlier, she was saying, okay, so with my son, she was saying Darren signed this agreement or whatever, and I've been doing good all week. I hadn't cried, hadn't really got upset, and I'm like, I thought of my boy comes in my mind, and I just block it out. So I got emotional and was, I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I asked her, what's the deal with this thing? Does that mean Caleb did that? I don't really get this. Does that mean he agreed? I said, what about free will? She said, well, it was his free will to sign, to agree to do that. It's not like God's saying, hey, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go down there. Just like I believe that God didn't tell Darren, hey, Darren, you're going to go get Caleb you're going to go meet him in the spirit. I believe he said, hey, Darren, you want to go get Caleb? And Darren's like, yeah, man, that's going to be great. I'm going to go get Chris's boy. But before that, he was feeling, and the reason why I saw him in the dream, and he was sad and all that and upset. Darren, why he was upset was because he knew how bad it was going to hurt me. And that just told me how much he loved me, that he cared that much for me. So, and he knew how much I care for my son because I talked to him about him a lot. And so, but in his death, with making that agreement, I look for the good that comes out of any death. I've always seemed like I've always done that. And I can already see, like with Darren's death, so many things. Sheila, Alex, I mean, just watching them, it's incredible. That's why I wrote this on here this morning. Sheila equals courageous. She's one of the most courageous people that I know right now, because what she does, man, and what she's saying and where I know she's going with things, it's going to bring persecution, but it's going to change so many people. And I see that happen with Laura and I. We're going to do the same, because in my son's death, there's things that I didn't have a voice for before. And I do believe, Alex said, your son sacrificed himself. He gave his life so that what y'all can do. And I said, man, he's more of a soldier than I thought he was, because I would think that my son was I got to watch what I say. I was thinking that he was a big, whiner, okay. And he was that way around us because we're mom and dad. But I found out that boy, he was resourceful, he was tough. And I just didn't realize it until towards the end. And then when he died, everything he went through, and then I heard things that he went through hell. And then to do that, to basically die, but to see what we're going to become, because I can't really explain what's going on inside me, but I feel like a part of me left the planet, and it's probably that way with a lot of people that lose a loved one. But death's not there in my mind like it was before. I'm not as fearful of that, which means I really don't care. I don't care what people on Facebook say about me. I care about what you say about Sheila. But it's it's changed some things, and it's given us a voice on some things that we can say to help people. And all this is going to lead to God's love, to Father's love. It's helped me understand. I could tell you that there's no hell and that God loves you, and how deep his love is, and he'd never do that to his kids. But I never knew that till I lost my son. And when I lost him, and I know a lot of bad things, more bad things have come out about him. Not that he was ever born that way or a bad person. He was forced to do a lot of things. He wasn't given a choice. He would have died, put it that way. Learning that, and he did things to protect his family, to protect us. I would carry my gun and have it around with me because I was afraid somebody would drive by the house and shoot us up. That sounded weird. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I was afraid of things. A car would come down the road, and I would be thinking about that. And it's because of things he would say, but he was protecting us. And then I was like, well, why in the hell you keep coming around the house then, you know? But we were his security. But getting off all that, just God's love through all this, and really knowing just how much he loves us, and that he's not going to burn us, and what we can go share to people. Eddie had told me we can go in the prisons now. And I was going to go with him before Caleb's death. And I was thinking Caleb may actually be there in that prison, was hoping he was, to get him off the streets. And now I'm thinking, okay, I've got a totally different voice than I would have had then if we would have went in, because COVID had stopped that. Now I'm going to be able to go in there, and I'm going to have to say, and I'll be able to tell them, which I know many of them were drug addicts, just like he was before, and I can say, hey, this is what can happen to you and will happen to you. But let me tell you this, and I'm going to have to ask Eddie if I can get away with this or not, because I know one of the counselors there, and he's a pastor, and he doesn't believe like us. So I'm going to say, can I go in there and say God's love is unconditional, truly? Because you've heard that before, but he's going to send you to hell, right? Like Nathan said, Jesus came to die on the cross to send you to hell and to save you. That doesn't make sense. So that's my voice, is to go in and say it. If it causes controversy, I'm going to center it. It's going to all go back to love. I don't have to give them scripture. I can tell them what's in my heart, you know, and I know in my heart, I would never send my boy to hell. And I serve a God, and we serve a God that will never send us to burn us. He won't do that. That we're going to go and we're going to spread it to people, and it's all going to be centered on love. Forget all the talking about what's in the letters. People can take so many different things and say what they say it's about and build doctrine around it, like Sheila said, but it's all going to be about love. So I see why my son, I believe that he agreed to this before. I don't really understand it all. but it's cool.
And listen, especially online, we're not trying to make a doctrine out of what it means when someone passes. I heard somebody else, I've actually read this a few times, that people have like 5 different exits that they can choose. I don't know, you guys. I do know that sometimes in suffering, people choose then. I understand when we see things that are unjust. We're not trying to put rhyme and reason to everything. Okay, I think it's exactly what you ended saying. It's God's love. And when you draw within, you can begin to see with different eyes, without the glasses, okay? And even as he was saying, a transmitter, that's a governor. That's somebody that now is governing in the earth, which is what we were set here to do, rather than taking life as it comes. So you guys just go ahead and stand up with me. Oh. I was going to talk about John G. Lake, but you guys know the bubonic plague. Go look him up if you've never heard of John G. Lake. The doctors were studying him because he was working with all these people, and this plague was taking out everybody and killing them, and he wasn't being killed. And he said, go get the disease. They literally got the disease off a dead person, and they put it in his hands, and they would watch the disease die. And he said it was the spirit of life, which is in Christ Jesus, that has set him free over sin and death. So it's the Christ within us that is it's better than all the hand sanitizer and all the vaccines. It's far beyond all of it. It's the realization of the Christ within. Father, I thank you for those that we are maturing in our Christ self, God. God, I thank you that it is all love. I thank you there is no fear. There is no darkness. God, I thank you that we are growing and we are growing and we are growing and we are full of grace and love. And we bless you, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.